All right. Hello, everybody. I have a couple guests with me today. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Lisa Wayman with Corner Escrow, and today I have Tiffany Cross with Dedicated Credit Repair and Bill Provost with Franklin Loan. Thank you guys so much for taking the time. I know you guys are super crazy busy right now, but you guys and I were on a call the other day, and there is so much trending information right now on loans and on credit, and I know it's changing every day, but I thought that there was a bulk of brand new information that would be useful in a video. So I really want to talk about, Tiffany, what you're seeing on credit repair in regards to the credit companies. And of course, Bill, what you're seeing when you're trying to qualify people for refis and for new home purchases and what that looks like. So Tiffany, do you want to start us off on some credit repair updates?
Absolutely. So I was just kind of ranting. Thank you for letting me do this. Just kind of ranting to both of you guys. And it's just, it's just a really intense time for consumers. And of course, anyone in our industry, our shared industries alike, just that the culture of what we used to know as our normal has changed almost overnight. So one of the trends that we're seeing that is kind of alarming to our consumers is that we're disputing negative items off of credit like we always have done legally and ethically. But there's a lot of confusion because of the CARES Act. It appears to be that a lot of the revolving accounts that are reporting on a consumer's report are no longer reporting. And that's a temporary issue. But let me give you an example. So let's assume a consumer has some 30-day lates on some collection accounts, some 30-day lates on some Capital One cards. So we would be disputing those things for deletion, right, to get their scores set. But they're calling, some of them are calling and saying, hey, are you disputing accounts that are in good standing because they're no longer reporting on my credit? And so, of course, the very first thing we want to know is, are they showing closed or are they just not there anymore? Because typically what we used to see back in 2010 during the loan modification crisis and foreclosure crisis was that companies were just closing accounts on people. They were dropping credit limits and then, of course, just closing the accounts, which is devastating to credit. Because it has a permanent impact when the accounts are closed. But in this case, they're not closing them. They're just not temporarily reporting. So although it's scary and there is a temporary decrease in the FICO score when that happens, or potentially an increase in score, depending on if the balances were high on the cards, it's a temporary situation. I'm guessing about 60 to 90 days is what our anticipation is of that. But we're seeing it with a lot of creditors. We're seeing it with Capital One, what did I say? San Diego County Credit Union. We're seeing it with federal student loans right now. Yeah. It's just a matter of, in my belief, and frankly, our research with our industry experts is just that because of the CARES Act protecting consumers against negative reporting from creditors, I think what we're seeing is a trend that they're just not reporting data at all. And it's misleading consumers to think that those accounts are now closed and they're not.
Oh, yikes. Wow.
Fun. Yeah, super
really fun. Tiffany and or Bill, whichever one wanted to take this, can you kind of, probably Tiffany, can you kind of review what the CARES Act says and what that means in reality? Because I know what they're trying to do, but in reality, talking with both of you, I know that that's not necessarily what happens in real life. So can you kind of talk about that for clarification?
Yeah, so the CARES Act in relation to, mortgage forbearance in particular, the goal was that consumers that were just minding their own business, that had no intention of being late on their credit or on their mortgages, they're suddenly forced not to be able to work, or they're not able to work, right? So there's supposed to be some protection for our consumers to where the mortgage companies and other lenders were not allowed to put 30-day lates on a credit report if indeed the account was put into forbearance. The downside or the real life work, situation is that the words forbearance in and of themselves, whether it be forbearance, deferred, mortgage deferred, natural disaster, any of the things that we're seeing the verbiage on the credit report, the verbiage itself is dropping the scores. So I've heard anything from 5 points. I had a personal client drop 38 points from that happening. And then, like I was saying to Bill a couple days ago, I mean, they didn't, in several instances, the client only called to inquire about the forbearance and actually never went through with it.
And then, Bill, you just had a client that you were talking about, right?
Yeah, I mean, the crazy thing is we're seeing also, I mean, like Tiffany was saying, the idea is look, be able to push payments out and have it have no impact on the credit. But now that this is happening and now we're pulling people's credit reports, now we're seeing that it's very different, right? I mean, like people that never called for a forbearance are getting things that are showing up in their credit report as if they did. And then like also Tiffany said, the whole, we're seeing it's almost common now. I mean, if someone is in forbearance, kind of looks like a lot of them are getting something that shows up. The payments aren't showing late, but in the notes from the creditor, it shows that they're in forbearance. And that's going to hurt people's scores. I mean, this is a fluid situation, and I know they're trying to fix all these little loops that are, all these things that are out there. But the hard thing is from a creditor perspective, we make decisions on how the likelihood of people paying us back based on their recent history for paying everything else back. And so, creditors, of course, are going to be a bit apprehensive about this, but the CARES Act makes it a law that they can't be negatively impacted, yet they are. So
exactly. And that's where, we sometimes when we do classes or we talk to lenders and realtors, we're constantly talking about the fact that, there's a difference between credit and meaning mortgage application and your FICO score. So I think, unfortunately, one of the biggest things I'm advocating for, I'd love it if lenders would stop calling it a credit application. Let's take a credit application. It should not be, it's a mortgage application, because in that mortgage application, they're discussing things like income that has absolutely no bearing on your FICO score. They're talking about your approval or your underwriting guidelines, right? They're looking at when was your last late payment? When was your last, well, the FICO score concerns itself with that, but some of the reasons why we don't talk about income is because it has absolutely no relationship to your actual FICO score. So in this instance, when somebody references credit in the CARES Act, that goes all across the world with what does that mean? Does that mean mortgage underwriting guidelines? Does it mean your ability to repurchase? Does it mean the score itself? Does it mean 30-day lates? I mean, there's so many areas of vulnerability in the CARES Act. And so that's why right now more than ever, I'm telling realtors in particular who are on the front lines or mortgage lenders, if you're working with clients and they're asking those questions, first and foremost, don't take anyone's word for it, including mine.
Right.
Go online immediately and obtain some sort of credit monitoring program, whether it's LifeLock, Identity Guard, you name it. Now's not the time to be not concerning yourself with your social security number in the midst of all these things happening. And the truth is in the pudding. If you're the person that called and you inquired about forbearance and 25 minutes later you have the words reporting on your credit report, that's a big deal, especially if you are going to talk to Bill about refinancing.
Yeah.
So it's imperative.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what's so hard. Yeah. By the way, if you're thinking about buying a house or refinancing anytime soon, do not get a forbearance on an existing mortgage that you already have.
Right.
Rental property or whatever it is. Because again, I mean, this changes over the next couple of weeks. 2 weeks right now is like a lifetime.
Sure.
But based on what we know right now, if you have any hope of refinancing or purchasing a house anytime soon, do not inquire about a forbearance, because if it comes up, it's going to be an automatic deal killer. And as it stands right now today, if your credit report says anything about currently being in a forbearance, your loan is automatically disqualified from being purchased from Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac, which basically means if you're looking for a conventional loan, you're not going to get one if your credit report says anything about a forbearance right now.
And the cautionary the information that we're being told is, I watched on Channel 5 News last night, and they're saying, listen, be proactive, call and ask. And that's where, my horns come out, because I'm, calling and asking is causing hardships, and it shouldn't.
Yeah.
Calling and inquiring about what your options are as a consumer is your right as a consumer. And unfortunately, what's happening majority of time is that by just making that simple phone call, those words are damaging consumers' credit reports, which is in violation of the CARES Act. So again, I
vicious circle.
It is, and like I said, go on, monitor your credit. But I also kind of want to throw this out there. Not all sources are the same. You get what you pay for. Credit Karma, I call it Credit Crappa. I don't like it at all for accuracy of credit scores. It's awful. But the trending is typical. So if, for example, you're going up with Credit Karma, you're going to be going up with FICO. It's just you cannot live and die by the score, because it's usually about 30 to 40 points off from the true FICO algorithm. But yes, my biggest thing today, like I said when I got on, is, oh my gosh, the sky is falling now even more, because consumers are getting their credit cards not reporting.
Yeah. And to be clear with that, Tiffany, you were saying that your office's job is to delete the negative credit reports. But what's happening is your clients who may be enrolled in your program are seeing that they're deleting the whole account as a whole, not just the negative. Well, not deleting, but it's not showing is what you're saying.
Correct.
And
Correct.
so they're thinking that you're deleting it when in fact it's just the credit companies aren't reporting as a whole, regardless
Exactly.
if, okay, understand.
And it's not just my clients, it's just that they're the ones super alert to it.
Yeah.
But that's why I'm saying if you're in the process of like paying credit cards off, and this is something I mentioned the other day, right now is not the time to get aggressive about paying off credit card debt. I know it's, I doubt very many people are like rushing to do it anyways, but, but you know, right now when they see aggressive payment strategies, it's very, very, very common and for credit card companies to drop limits and close accounts.
Yeah.
So 5% over what you normally would pay would be the most I would suggest doing right now.
Wow. Good tip. Interesting. And then Bill, you were saying that your, the other day when your client, you were talking about your client being shown what was the word you said? The natural
hazard stuff.
Yeah. Or natural hazard. And they didn't even call to inquire. It just showed up.
They never even called. They're totally current on their mortgage. They didn't even call. But it says, and it never, and nowhere in the comments did it actually say the word deferred or forbearance or something like that. So that's good. But again, I mean, this is one that's in underwriting right now. I mean, our underwriter was about to decline the loan because they're like, we know what that means. That means they asked for forbearance, right? And so now we're documenting that they didn't ask for forbearance. They already made their payment and all of that stuff. Thank goodness. But
thank goodness.
It's some, you know, in fairness, right? I mean, they rolled out the CARES Act in what, 2 weeks to really get money into people's hands and make some big changes as quickly as they possibly could. So, I mean, we got to give them some kudos for that, whatever that means. But I mean, this is what happens, right? We're going to have this fallout because no one's had time to try and digest what's, you know, what are the rules? How do we do this? Because it's changing things. I mean, literally no one has ever seen anything like this before.
Just daily.
And when you're disputing derogatory items like dedicated credit repair does just daily, we're using the lack of detailed law to get things removed. So as far as we're concerned, I mean, I guess the hope and the solution is that because it's so vague, it allows for a lot of legal loophole to legally and ethically get things removed fairly easily. It's just that it shouldn't take hiring a professional company to get things removed that shouldn't have been there to begin with. So as much as I love to be of service, I like to be of service for the right reasons. And I think at this point, you know, when you're seeing well-intentioned consumers who are being told on the news to go call, it's just hard to watch it actually play out a little differently. So that was kind of the hot topic, and these two had to deal with my my crazy rant.
That's okay. Well, I appreciate you both so much for taking the time. Again, I know you're super busy, but thank you for being here and giving us an update. If you guys have any questions on what we talked about today, I will leave Bill and Tiffany's information in the comments below, and you can contact them directly, okay? Thank you guys so much. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.